History of Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace is the London residence and administrative headquarters of the Monarchy of the United Kingdom. Located in the City of Westminster, the palace is often at the centre of state occasions and royal hospitality. It has been a focal point for the British people at times of national rejoicing and mourning. Year 1703, building initiates at Buckingham Palace. Originally known as Buckingham House, the building at the core of today's palace was a large townhouse built for the Duke of Buckingham in 1703 on a site that had been in private ownership for at least 150 years. It became a royal residence when King George III purchased it in 1761 as a comfortable family home for his wife, Queen Charlotte. 14 of George and Charlotte's 15 children were born there. In the 1820s, Buckingham House underwent a palatial transformation when King George IV employed architect John Nash to give it a royal renovation. Queen Victoria was the first monarch to adopt Buckingham Palace as her official residence, moving there in 1837, within a year of becoming queen. 1851, Queen Victoria makes the first public appearance on the balcony. Queen Victoria made the first documented royal appearance on the balcony in 1851, when she welcomed the public during merriments for the opening of the Great Exhibition, a revolutionary showcase of international manufacturing, masterminded by Prince Albert. Presences on the balcony are now a common part of royal events. In 2002, Queen Elizabeth waved to crowds from the balcony as more than 1 million people gathered to the palace to celebrate her Golden Jubilee. More than 200 million audience around the world watched the party on television. 1841 and 1910, Edward VII is born and dies at Buckingham Palace. Edward VII is the only emperor to have been born and died at Buckingham Palace. Following the wedding of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert on the 10th of February 1840, their second child, Edward, was born at the palace on the 9th of November 1841. Known to his family as Bertie, Edward spent much of his childhood at the palace with his 8 siblings. 1914, suffragettes march on the palace. On the 22nd of May 1914, Buckingham Palace found itself in the middle of the fight for women's voting rights, as 20,000 suffragettes marched on the palace. Led by Emmeline Pankhurst, the women began processing towards the palace from Grosvenor Gardens, declaring their intention to deliver a petition to the king. The protest attracted sensationalist and unsympathetic press coverage. When she reached the palace gates, Emmeline Pankhurst was arrested. 1937, the Buckingham Palace Guide Company is formed. The Girl Guide Association had been formed in 1910 by Agnes Barden-Powell, as a substitute of girls' organisation to Scouting. As it was believed that the princesses should live as normal lives as possible, they were enrolled to join the popular organisation by their aunt, Princess Mary. In 1937, the 11-year-old Princess Elizabeth joined to be a Girl Guide. Her younger sister Princess Margaret, who was 7 years old, also signed up as a Brownie. 1940s, the palace is bombed. The royal family remained at Buckingham Palace throughout the Second World War, despite Foreign Office advice to leave Britain. Queen Elizabeth declared, "The children will not leave unless I do. I shall not leave unless their father does, and the king will not leave the country in any circumstances, whatever." However, the judgment to remain in Britain placed the royal family in trivial danger. The palace received 9 direct bomb hits during the course of the war, and on the 8th of March 1945, VE Day celebrations. When peace was finally declared in Europe on the 8th of May 1945, Buckingham Palace became a principal point for VE Day celebrations. Winston Churchill appeared with the King, Queen, and the 2 royal princesses on a balcony before huge crowds. All through the course of the day, the royal family made a total of 8 appearances on the balcony to wave to those celebrating below. During their father's final balcony appearance of the day, the princesses Margaret and Elizabeth secretly joined the cheering crowd below. Elizabeth later recalled, "We stood outside and shouted, 'We want the king.' I think it was one of the most memorable nights of my life." King George VI also delivered a radio address to his nation, played on loudspeakers in Trafalgar Square. Fascinating facts about Buckingham Palace today. In 1883, electricity was installed in the ballroom, and following 4 years electricity was installed throughout the palace. Now it uses more than 40,000 light bulbs. Buckingham Palace has 775 rooms spread over 77,000 square meters with 800 members of staff. These include 19 state rooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices and 78 bathrooms. In dimensions, the building is 108 meters long across the front, 120 meters deep, and it has height about 24 meters. More than 50,000 people visit the palace each year as tourists for visiting state banquets, lunches, dinners, receptions and garden parties. Changing of the Guard at Buckingham Palace is the ceremony where the Queen's Guard hands over responsibility for protecting Buckingham Palace and St. James's Palace to the new Guard. The location of the changing the Guard has followed the official residence of the sovereign, so in the 17th century it was first held at the Palace of Whitehall, then at St. James's Palace. As anyone who has watched the current television series Victoria knows, the young Queen chose Buckingham as her home in 1837. Following a march by a detachment of the Old Guard, with musical support, from St. James's Palace and the new Guard led by a regimental band from Wellington Barracks, the ceremony on the forecourt of Buckingham Palace starts at 11 o'clock and lasts for approximately 45 minutes. The Queen's Guard is normally provided by one of the 5 regiments of foot guards from the Household Division, instantly recognizable in their famous bearskin caps and red tunics. Buckingham Palace is a symbol and home of the British monarchy, an art gallery, and a tourist attraction. So, that's for today. See you at the next historic destination. Stay with HistoryMo. Keep in mind, history is the new future.